Temos agora a intervenção convidada da Presidente da African Gong, Doutora Elizabeth Reis Koala. A apresentação ficará a cargo da Doutora Rosalia Vargas, Presidente da Ciência Viva, e contará com o comentário da Professora Margarida Mano, Deputada da Assembleia da República.
Muito bom dia. Eu gostaria de saudar a presença da investigadora Karin Wall Gago e nela cumprimento as mulheres cientistas portuguesas e na pessoa do Sr. Ministro Manuel Leitor, também cientista, cumprimento todos os cientistas. Portanto, mulheres e homens da ciência, hoje é o vosso dia, parabéns. It is my pleasure and an honor to stand here and present Dr. Elizabeth Razekola. It is a pleasure because I have been longing for having Dr. Razekola in Portugal to quite some time. First time I had her name was from Professor Mariano Gago, and he said, you must work with her and learn from her. And it happened in 2005, November, during a full-day consultation event in OECD Global Science Forum Conference on declining students' enrollment in science and technology in Amsterdam. Even today, I can recall the right place and the right circumstance when and where Mariano Gago introduced each other. It was very impressive, but I'm sure you will understand why as soon you assist to her talk. But it was saying even more than a pleasure, it is an honor to present a researcher, a scientist, who fights for the power of knowledge to transform reality, to bring about equality and opportunities for all those who are underrepresented in science and society. Elizabeth has a professional background in chemical engineering and industry and worked for 20 years full-time in oil and gas companies, multinational companies, and she became passionate by culture and science education and gender issues. She has provided extensive advisory and consultancy expertise to governments and multilateral international organizations over the past 15 years, including the European Commission, the Africa Union Commission, and Monitoring and Evaluation Committee on the Science, Technology and Innovation Strategy for Africa, STISA 2024. As an international expert on economy and development, reporting for and advising the European Commission on the African Union Commission, Dr. Razekola has been dedicated her life to the creation of transnational organizations that advocate for science education and scientific culture that are free for prejudice of gender, race, geography, or culture. I will just mention a few of the large spectrum of organizations that she helped to initiate. Well, Dr. Elizabeth Razekola is presently president of African Gong, which is the Pan-African Network for the Popularization of Science and Technology and Science Communication. Scientific outreach and scientific literacy of the African continent. She is also part of the founding team of the Pan-African Solidarity Education Network for STEAM education in more than 20 African countries, but also in the Africa diaspora, such as Canada, Brazil, or Colombia. The GONG is a key organization in promoting scientific literacy in Africa with a focus on the kind of science communication that provides an active voice for citizens to express their needs, their expectations in relation to recent scientific developments. Caros amigos, Dr. Liz, dear Liz, Agora temos-la aqui nesta que é a sua primeira vinda a Portugal. Obrigada. Liz, take the floor, please.
Good morning, or as I like to say, bon dia, folks. What can I say to that introduction? Dr. Rosalia Vargas is putting me on the spot. But let me start by saying, honorable invited guests, the mayor of this wonderful, gorgeous city, everywhere is a delight, a feast for the eyes. And a feast for the pockets as well. I've seen the shops, gorgeous. Presidents of institutions, the Minister for Science and Technology, leaders of the scientific community in Portugal, I am honored and delighted. And to make sure that I don't leave any of the honorables out, I will introduce you to a wonderful phrase that we use in Africa in these occasions. When we've named everybody we can think of in the room, we say, all protocols observed. So that covers me, please, if I've left out anybody. I am so delighted and honored to be here to contribute to this August commemoration. And I am more than delighted to see the widow, the wife of the late Professor Mariano Gago. Because as a wife and a mother myself, I know that when we honor great men, when we acknowledge great men, we forget that there's a powerful woman behind them. And ma'am, you are the power behind that wonderful man. And we want to acknowledge you and to thank you for sharing him with us, for the sacrifices that you made so that we could have him. It hasn't been easy, I'm sure. And we thank you, and God bless you, and may God dry your tears, and may he comfort you, and may he keep you in his grace. We thank you, ma'am. We thank you. I was fortunate to have had the opportunity to interact and engage with Professor Gago and a number of times in the early 2000s, as Professor Vargas intimated. And this actually was part of the journey for us in terms of getting African Gong going, the lessons that we learned from Professor Gago about partnership working, about pulling communities of interest together. So in terms of African Gong, what are we about and trying to do? Because this is where we need to work together. We need your support, the learning and sharing. In African Gong, we are trying, and it is a journey. We are an emerging network. We are trying to bring together the different language groups. We have Portuguese-speaking African countries, we have French-speaking African countries, we have English-speaking African countries. And we are trying to bring them together in a holistic network to advance science communication on our continent. I don't need to tell you that the development challenges of the world are no more profound than they are on the African continent. But we have to help ourselves. We need to mobilize. We need to take science to our people. We need to improve scientific literacy on our continent. But we need to do it in an African-centric way so that our people have ownership. Because if people don't own it, they will not live it. And a very important part of the ownership is bringing on board the indigenous knowledge, the rich knowledge in our communities as a beginning, as part of embarking on a journey of scientific culture. And that was a very important lesson that Professor Gago taught us. You have to start with where people are at to take them on a journey with you. You cannot impose from where you are. That is not inclusion. So it's very critical for us that we start. So we're looking at partnerships across these different language groups. And one of the key strategies that Professor Gago also taught me was that when you talk about science communication and the public understanding of science, you must not treat it as a periphery, or else it will not get anywhere. You've got to mainstream it and embed it at the heart of your national systems of innovation, whether they're at local level, national level, or at the European Union regional levels. It must sit between your science, technology, and innovation systems. And so the context in which I was fortunate to interact with Professor Gago are as relevant today as they were then. And I would share that with you. My first interaction with Professor Gago was in Brussels in 2004, when he was disseminating at a European Commission consultation event the results of the report on the high-level panel, which he chaired, on the human resource challenge in science and technology for European Union member states. And we had a full day's consultation, stakeholders in Brussels, and he shared with us those far-reaching recommendations and findings, and the implications for the European Union and for member states. The second opportunity was at the OECD conference, as mentioned by Dr. Vargas, where we were looking now at declining student enrollment across a whole range of the global north and the global south. And Professor Gago further elaborated on the challenging aspects of that work from 2004, which are still unresolved, unfinished business present in European Union and national member states. And it's important that we revisit this, because one of the problems that we have, if we are not careful in terms of how we commemorate our champions and our heroes when they're gone, is that we, out of laziness, out of not wanting to address difficult things, we sanitize them. We make them into sweet old uncles. No, Professor Gago was not a sweet old uncle. He was a fighter. He was a champion. And he told us many challenging things that we did not want to hear. So we mustn't sanitize that, because that means that we're not doing the work that he set us out to do. We must remember what it was that he set us out to do. And the things that he set us out to do, the challenges that he put to us, were in 4 key areas. So the first challenge that came out of the high-level report was about regional imbalances in science, technology, education and skills, development profiles, and infrastructure, leading to brain drain within the EU, largely from the southern countries, such as Portugal, to the northern regions, and challenges in skilled jobs creation in the southern regions due to skewed investments in R&D for science, technology, innovation in the public and private sector. This was the big elephant in the room in the EU that nobody ever wanted to talk about, to write about, to challenge the EU and member states about. But Professor Gago was, as the English would say, he was big enough and ugly enough to put it on the table. And people had to take notice. And it is still a challenge that needs to be addressed. But he had the big shoulders to say, this is going to be on there. And that is part of his legacy, to get that elephant in the room talked about. The second thing that he challenged us was about the aging population in the EU and the need to increase the numbers of young people coming into science, technology, engineering, and maths, education, and professions, given the challenges of globalization, low birth rates, and honestly, talking of low birth rates, I mean, the Pope was in Portugal this weekend. If he can do something about that, well, that would be a miracle. Yeah, we need divine intervention here. But all I will say is, men, if you want the ladies to have babies, you gotta do your fair share. Because we are not gonna do it if we don't get the help. So, over to you. I was in Gaia yesterday morning, and the mayor there had just had a baby. And I said to him, I hope you're also helping out at night. And he says, yes, I'm trying. But seeing as there's going to be elections later on in the year, I'm glad he's got his own baby to kiss, because you know politicians and elections, they're kissing everybody else's baby. So it's a good thing he has his own baby ready for the elections. Absolutely. But it's critical. We must talk about these issues. Low birth rates in Europe are a challenge. And given the competition in globalization from countries like China and Southeast Asia, and here I will give you the words of two key people. President Obama, articulating the challenge for the US in this regard, said, "Who out-educates us today will outpace us tomorrow in STEM, science, technology, engineering, maths development, innovation, jobs, and economic development, and economic growth." Serious. Who out-educates us today will outpace us tomorrow. It's a given. It's a no-brainer. We gotta get real. And Professor Gago asked in 2004, in sharing the results of his report, how can Europe compete with China and the Asian countries, given their huge populations, high birth rates, and importantly, the high aspirations and achievement and interests that their young people have for STEM education and careers? It's like it's in the DNA. How do we compete? And it's the same challenge for us in Africa. The third challenge he put to us was diversity and social inclusion as Europe's ace in the pack to mitigate the demographics of the aging population. And how can we harness this ace in the pack, engaging more women, young people from ethnic minorities, addressing bridging social class inequalities to fast-track growth in science, technology, and innovation, human resources, skills, and knowledge pools. The rationale here is quite glaring. As my mother would say, even Stevie Wonder can see it. It's a no-brainer. Yeah. And the last challenge, the fourth of the four challenges, is about international cooperation and partnerships between and across EU regions and countries, and between EU member states and countries and regions across the globe, in the global north and in the global south. And for a country like Portugal, given its rich historical connections, it needs to develop smart networks to harness these international partnerships in new win-win paradigms. No more of the old exploitative partnerships, folks, because everybody in the world has woken up. It ain't gonna happen. Win-win. Everybody's gotta win, or else it's not working. That enhance global development, but also accrue benefits, such as collaborative projects, increased investment, and skills and exchanges to institutions and industry in the global north and south. And I will end with this theme of partnerships, because I think that really was hardwired in the DNA of Professor Gago, and that is one of the key lessons that we can take forward. And that has lessons for Europe and for his home country, Portugal. And in this regard, I am delighted that EXCITE, the European Science Centers and Science Museum Network, has given an award in his honor on the theme of partnerships. So I'm very pleased that he has been recognized for one of his seminal contributions. And I would then like to look at this partnership foundation, what it means in a country like Portugal. And the way I put it is, Portugal is an old country. An old country. And I say this in a good way, as someone coming from a continent, Africa, where we revere, we respect, and we value the wisdom, the deep reservoir of knowledge and leadership that comes with age. That's our heritage. And so I value and respect what you have in a country like Portugal as an old country. And just as with old age, you might be creaking in the knees, you might be having a bit of backache, you know what I'm saying. But the wisdom more than compensates for the bad knees and the bad back. And that's what needs to come to play. There are myriad opportunities here for the country to leverage into these dynamic, forward-looking, and engaging international partnerships, which will spark, sustain, and boost young women and men in science and technology and the communication of this science through diverse formats and approaches, not least through international partnerships with Portuguese-speaking countries across the globe. And there is a global footprint. It's part of that history, including on the African continent, to enhance the visibility, collaborative networks, capacity, and systematic footprint of scientific knowledge and culture generated and disseminated in the Portuguese language. It's very important. We can't sit back and complain about the hegemony and the dominance of English if we do not, parallel to that, put in efforts to make sure that we drive the dissemination of scientific culture in other languages. So don't complain, do your own, like the French. So we in African Gong are very committed to working and developing partnerships with institutions and ministries in Portugal and in other European countries in a win-win paradigm to deliver gains for science, technology, and innovation in Portugal, Portuguese-speaking African countries, and across a global framework, building on excellence, the transfer and dissemination of good practice, leadership, and vision for collaborative development. God bless you for this commemorative day. It is an honor, it has been a delight to be here, to see your passion, your vision, your commitment. We cannot rest and simply sanitize Professor Mariano Gago. We must be the fighters to take forward the realization of his legacy, or else we're missing the point. And as we say in my language, you either go big or you go home. I thank you. Muito obrigada. Thank you.
Muito bom dia a todos. Cumprimento o Sr. Ministro e no Sr. Ministro cumprimento todos os presentes. E começo por agradecer o convite que me fez para estar aqui. Eu estar aqui num dia que é especial, porque é o primeiro dia em que nós comemoramos o Dia Nacional do Cientista. Recordo com orgulho o dia em que na Assembleia da República, há cerca de um ano, no dia 23 de maio, a Assembleia da República aprovou por unanimidade o projeto de resolução, cujo primeiro subscritor foi o Alexandre Quintanilha, naturalmente, presidente da Comissão de Educação, meu presidente, e instituindo o Dia dos Cientistas. Foi um aplauso, foi um voto unânime, foi um voto com aplauso de pé, e o objetivo do projeto é fazer aquilo que estamos a fazer aqui, basicamente, é celebrar e reconhecer o papel dos cientistas na sociedade portuguesa. Portugal tem, enfim, isso era claro, e é claro também no texto do projeto, nas últimas décadas, apostado muito na promoção da ciência e na ciência como forma de construir um futuro melhor e um Portugal melhor. Portugal, nas últimas décadas, deu um salto qualitativo absolutamente incontestado, um salto qualitativo que se traduziu no facto, no espaço de uma geração, termos passado da cauda da Europa para uma posição acima da média da OCDE em muitos indicadores de quantidade e de qualidade em termos de criação de conhecimento, mas também, naturalmente, de novos doutores e novos cientistas, de internacionalização, de divulgação da ciência, de inovação tecnológica, etc. E, portanto, naturalmente, que temos que estar orgulhosos e todas as oportunidades, sobretudo uma oportunidade como esta, são boas para celebrarmos o facto de Portugal hoje ter um amplo conjunto de cientistas que, reconhecidos nacional e internacionalmente pelo seu valor, pela contribuição que dão para a ciência e, sobretudo, para o progresso e bem-estar da sociedade, que é uma daquelas preocupações que Elizabeth Raskola sempre, ao longo do seu percurso, sempre coloca acima de todo o resto. E, portanto, é um gosto estar aqui hoje a festejar o aniversário de José Mariano Gago, que não estando infelizmente connosco, está bem presente entre nós e, portanto, hoje é um dia de festa, porque é também o dia do aniversário dele. E, naturalmente, que Mariano Gago é, como já foi dito e como será dito, e como penso que a história terá a oportunidade de marcar alguém que impulsionou a ciência para uma nova centralidade política que foi absolutamente decisiva, com muitos outros, mas que foi decisiva para esta alteração de que Portugal pôde beneficiar. É claro que o conhecimento científico é o resultado de uma construção progressiva. E, portanto, no fundo, o que temos são formas de entendimento que se sucedem ao longo do tempo e que se vão aperfeiçoando, baseados ou fundamentados com uma base metodológica bem definida, mas, naturalmente, que aquele modelo dominante de um sistema objetivo, universal e determinista, sabemos hoje que tem limitações. O conhecimento é, digamos, perspectiva no tempo, é perspectiva num contexto, em contextos, naturalmente, nomeadamente sociais, e é por isso que hoje os limites da ciência estão muito mais presentes do que estavam há alguns séculos ou mesmo há algumas décadas atrás. E digo isto a propósito, não só, mas também da presença aqui de Elizabeth Raskola, que é alguém que bastante provocatória. Eu não conhecia as ligações dela a Mariano Gago, compreendo que houve uma influência muito positiva a este nível, mas de facto aquilo que a Elizabeth refere com bastante frequência é de centros de ciência eurocêntricos. Frequentemente no discurso, e aqui de alguma forma também o disse, refere que a tecnologia é verdade que com o seu desenvolvimento é um fator de acesso e de acessibilidade, mas é também um fator de exclusão, e é para isso que devemos olhar. E recentemente, ou em França, penso ter lido que, a propósito desta questão do paradigma win-win, terá dito qualquer coisa como que para verdadeiramente conseguirmos um win-win, a ciência devia desistir de 3 coisas, certo? A primeira era da dominância masculina, a segunda era do eurocentrismo e a terceira da ideia de que a única solução para os problemas da humanidade é a ciência. E esta interpelação, naturalmente, questiona-nos, e enquanto cientistas, mas também enquanto cidadãos, não é? Enquanto cidadãos relativamente ao papel da ciência. E é esta perspectiva provocatória e, sobretudo, também este apelo que aqui fez e que faz sempre, relativamente ao trabalho em rede na promoção do capital humano. A ideia de uma ciência ao serviço do desenvolvimento e do progresso. É esta, digamos, interpelação para, por um lado, neste momento, aproveitarmos e, digamos, celebrarmos o sucesso de Portugal e dos rankings na Web of Science e dos verdadeiros sucessos que Portugal conseguiu, mas também o manter em bem presente a relatividade e a importância que é o pensar a ciência com um fim que vai para além da própria ciência. A ideia de que todas as partes do mundo e de que todos contribuíram para a história da ciência. É, digamos, esta perspectiva provocatória, este equilíbrio que eu diria que não poderíamos começar melhor neste dia do cientista, aqui celebrando e reconhecendo, basicamente, eu diria, os cientistas como construtores do desenvolvimento. E, naturalmente, que agradecemos muito a Elizabeth estar e tendo-nos vindo dar aqui esta perspectiva. Eu concluía dizendo apenas que eu acho que hoje o presente maior que podemos dar a Mariano Gago é naturalmente celebrar o Dia do Cientista hoje, mas eu diria que, de facto, o maior presente é o envolvimento que temos obrigação de conseguir de uma comunidade alargada científica, que não tem apenas os cientistas, mas que terá também, naturalmente, as instituições públicas e privadas que fazem ciência ou que permitem que ela aconteça, naturalmente que os políticos e todos aqueles que têm responsabilidade de uma forma direta ou indireta na ciência, mas eu diria que a maior prenda de aniversário que poderemos dar, não hoje, mas todos os anos, será claramente o de tornar a agenda central que ele colocou na ciência como uma agenda que não é só dos cientistas, mas é dos cidadãos e da sociedade. E este é um desafio de um envolvimento permanente que naturalmente terá que nortear todos nós, mas relativamente aos cientistas, sempre com um olhar para a sociedade e para os desafios que, de alguma forma, aqui Elizabeth nos colocou. Muito obrigado e uma boa continuação para nós.